Welcome back, everyone. I'm sitting here with Carnage the Executioner currently. That was quite the performance. We had some crowd interaction. Everyone in here was loving it, myself included, definitely. So thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, definitely. Do you want to just introduce yourself for anyone who may be tuning in right now and just tell us what you do?
I am Terrell Woods, Carnage the Executioner, one of my stage personas. My other stage persona is Terrell X. Maybe I was going to do it was almost a call to action, so I won't say that.
Oh, okay. Good catch.
Terrell X is somebody people could possibly be looking for also.
Okay, very cool. And you used to be called T Swift, correct?
Yeah, that was my first rap name,
Okay,
T Swift.
cool.
Before there was a Taylor Swift.
Yeah, right. You were the first.
I was the first one.
You are the
in
T Swift.
1987.
I like it. Maybe she was inspired by you to.
The funny thing is our birthdays are a day apart.
Really?
So I thought
Are you the day before her?
I am the day before.
Okay,
So,
that makes sense.
but yeah. So yeah, I started going by T Swift in '87. So I'm
Yeah.
sure she wasn't even.
Yeah.
I don't think she was around then.
Okay. Cool. And so you're from Chicago, correct?
Originally, yes.
Okay, great. And T Swift was a Chicago persona for you? then?
No, I mean I've been in Minnesota since I was like 4 or 5 years old.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I started rapping when I was about 12 or 13.
Very cool.
And T Swift was the first name I came up with. So
Definitely.
That's what it was.
Okay, great. So when you were coming up, who were your big inspirations for hip hop?
Wow. The first, what I would call, because I didn't even know it was called hip hop. The first record I heard was probably Run DMC's "It's Like That,"
Oh, yeah.
and that's the way it is. When I heard that, I was like, "What is this?"
Oh, cool.
So there was Run DMC, and then there was Herbie Hancock. He had a song called "Rocket,"
Oh yeah.
and he had the scratching in the song, and at that point, I wanted to be a DJ. When I heard
That's with his mouth, ladies and gentlemen.
when I saw the turntable work, I was like, I want to be a DJ. But before that, I wanted to be a drummer. Couldn't afford drums. Then I wanted to be a DJ. But then I heard Fat Boys, Buff Love the Human Beatbox from Fat Boys.
Okay.
And in '84 is when I heard them, and then that's what made me actually do my first music.
Okay,
My
cool.
first bit of music was beatboxing, and I learned it from Dougie Fresh and Buff Love from Fat Boys.
Wow. Very cool. So you're a beatboxer before you were a rapper.
Oh yeah, I started beatboxing when I was like 10, and I started rapping when I was 12 or 13.
Okay.
So
Very cool. Awesome. So tell me about your name, Carnage the Executioner. What does that mean to you? How do you embody that name?
well, when I first came up with it, I wanted to have a name that people would hear and go, "Whoa, that dude is serious about it." And I thought about, if I was really into battle rap then, and I thought about like, if I was the illest, hardest, most destructive battle rapper, what is the name that would stand out the most? And I couldn't think of anything that was harder than Carnage the Executioner.
Definitely.
That describes battle, that describes the destruction left after the battle, and with the Executioner, when somebody's executed, if you cut the head off, they no longer move. I win anyway.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what it was. But as time progressed, I realized that Carnage the Executioner was a character that I was using to run away from who I really was.
Interesting.
I wanted to do things as Carnage that I couldn't do as a regular person, so that's why I made up the persona. And but I didn't really know that's why I made up the persona until I started really digging deep some years later and figuring out why it was I started doing music
Right.
as a form of self-expression. And I realized that, when I was doing it as Carnage the Executioner, I was expressing myself, but I was more so wanting to be a character in comparison to all the rappers I grew up listening to who I thought were the hardest rappers.
Right.
And then upon growth happening, I realized that I'm more than just a hardcore battle rapper.
Right.
So then Carnage the Executioner now it represents a journey from where I was to where I'm trying to go.
Okay.
I started off destroying things with my talent, and now I'm trying to build. I'm trying to rebuild. I'm trying to bring it back, trying to have a rebirth, and bring out the person I really am, which is where the Terrell X persona comes from.
Okay. So are you working towards the Terrell X then, or?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
There's some. I should probably just mention this. There's a project that I have coming up. I just got a grant. I got an MRAC grant.
Fantastic.
I think it was an MRAC grant. One of the 3 grants I applied for, and I got it. So, And that one was to do a theater-based performance, and that's going to be happening in August. And that show is Carnage the Executioner presents Finding Terrell X.
Wow.
And that's where the Terrell X persona is going to be released, and there's going to be a whole project around that journey.
Wow. And are you acting in it? Are you in this production?
Yeah, yes, it's a theater-based performance, so
Okay.
there's going to be some acting in it. It's going to be there's going to be a story arc. It's going to be a whole put together experience, and I'm going to write the album and then perform it live and record it, and then that'll be the album.
So there's a story that goes along with the album, and it's
The whole thing will be the album is the story is the album.
That's incredible.
And the first time and only time I perform it for the first time will be a recorded version of it, and then I'm going to take that recording and put it out as a live album because I like doing live albums.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're going to take that August performance and oh wow.
Yep.
So have you done that before? Is that
I haven't done that yet. I'm starting the process of writing it now. So I have a few months to get it the way I want it to feel.
Definitely.
And I've done a live album before. I did do a performance and then put it out as a live album. That one probably isn't in my
on the Spotify
biography of stuff. No, because it was a live album. You don't usually put those on there.
Yeah.
But that was the Attack of the Show Stealer album. I recorded that live in a theater in Denver, Colorado at the Oriental Theater, and that show was recorded, and then we ended up putting it out. I ended up putting it out as a live album, and it did pretty well. And I like live albums, so I was like, well, this year is actually the 5-year anniversary of the Attack of the Show Stealer album. So on April 1st, I will be at Hook and Ladder Theater doing Return of the Show Stealer, the 5-year anniversary.
Very cool.
Recording a new album, which will come out as the second Attack of the Show Stealer or Show Stealer album. So from here on, I'm going to be doing quite a few live albums.
Wow. So yeah, in the next like 5 or 6 months, you got 2 albums that you're preparing for.
Going to be performing and preparing for. Yes.
Wow. That's incredible. How do you find the time for all that? Yeah.
What else? This is my job.
Yeah. Right.
You know, this is what I do for a living, and this is what I do for livelihood, and this is how I express myself. So if I don't devote time to it, you know, what good is it?
For sure.
You know, what good am I to claim I'm an artist if I'm not actually working as an active artist?
Yeah,
you know?
That's great. So. I have to say your answer for the explanation behind your name, that's one of the best ones I've heard from anyone. I feel like you put a lot of thought into that, and it shows. I mean, like you have a very your persona is just evident when you're doing your thing, and it's very cool. It's very cool. All right, cool. Well, let's take a look back at your discography that's out now. I've seen 6 or 7 albums that are out on streaming platforms. Ravenous was your most recent. Is that the one that you're most proud of at this point, or is there another project that you enjoy more?
Personally, I like Ravenous the best. It's the most. It shows the most growth from where I was to where I'm at now. I guess my second favorite, or a lot of people's favorite or second favorite, would be Respect the Name. That one had a lot of. That was an exploration of delivering personal content, really opening up myself and letting people know what my backstory was.
Totally.
That's what that album really represented. But Ravenous is the culmination of everything I did from there up to, getting up to the point where I'd already told a lot of the story, but what's happened from the beginning of my story to the time I made that album. And there was a lot of changes in my life that happened, which is why I'm the most proud of that album. I really talked about, trying to figure out how to overcome this overconsumption I was consumed with. And, talking about, doing better things for my body, doing better things for the environment, going plant-based. And that record has a lot of meaning.
Cool. Well, speaking of plant-based, I read about your organization, Plant-Based Poets. Do you want to talk about that? What is that?
It's not as much of an organization as much of it as it is a movement.
I see.
It's just kind of like a way of bringing people together who think organically, who want to look at how we interact with each other and how we take care of or don't take care of the planet as a means of as a thing that we need to look at as a necessity. We need to figure out how to get along with each other better. We need to figure out how to be more organic with our communication, how to, stop over consuming so much that the planet is looking and feeling the way it looks now.
Yeah.
And I'm doing my part by being plant-based,
That's great.
and inviting other people to, I'm not saying that you need to just give up all your animal products, but, maybe one time a week, you can do a little something for the planet,
Baby steps.
so baby steps. So that's basically what it is. It's just, basically kind of a call to action, if you will. Just think about what it is we're putting out into the world and what we're putting into our bodies.
Cool.
That's what it's about.
What inspired this thought process for you? How did you, in 2019 when you started that movement, what was it? Was there a specific moment where you were like, I need to change things for myself, and I'm seeing this in the broader community, and I want to make a change? Or
Yes, in 2017
okay,
is when the change actually happened.
okay,
I went plant-based in 2017, and when I did, my whole mind shifted. For lack of a better way of explaining it, I felt like I was less primal. I think that was the point at which I started looking at how I was presenting myself to other people. And as Carnage the Executioner, I was really a bold, in-your-face persona. And I feel like I have the talent, but, sometimes the talent is, it's overshadowed by the aggression if people aren't into aggressive deliveries. So it wasn't until I went plant-based that I realized how much of an animal I actually, a wild animal. And there's nothing wrong with wild animals. They're beautiful.
True.
But if you're a human trying to be a wild animal, it doesn't work. It doesn't work the way it's supposed to. So instead of acting like I'm something I'm not, I'd rather pay homage to the animals and respect them and not consume them and be the person I actually am. And that didn't happen until I went plant-based and stopped consuming, putting things into my body that were not helpful to me. For other people, y'all can eat as much meat as you want and your body's probably fine. But the more meat and animal products I consumed, the more I wanted and the bigger I got. So, at one point I was 340 pounds. And then I lost, from my biggest weight to now, I've lost 155 pounds.
Wow.
And that is strictly because of my plant-based, decision to go plant-based. And that happened in 2017. And that's where the concept for Ravenous started coming together. I'm like, oh, so here's an opportunity for me to tell this story, and but with a much clearer mind, I was way more honest about it.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't making excuses, and I felt like that was a real pivotal point in my life, and that's why I like that project the best. It's the most indicative of who I am now, and where I'm trying to continue to go. So why not?
That's great. Awesome. Well, thank you for that. I kind of want to turn now to the art of beatboxing, because we haven't really had a beatboxer in here before, and you were quite the introduction to that art form for us. So thank you for coming in. What are like the elements of beatboxing? I know you kind of emulate different parts of the drums, right? When you're doing it, can you run through that for me?
So I don't necessarily, when I think about it, I don't think about it as much in elements until I start teaching it.
I see.
When I was making, a name for myself in my bedroom as a beatboxer, in my neighborhood, walking around beatboxing, all I wanted to do was make sounds that I was hearing in my head.
Exactly.
Then I started teaching beatboxing in 2006, and I had to figure out how to break those things down. So in most simplistic terms, I try to do all the sounds that are featured on the drum kit.
Right.
But then how to take what my body has become as a drum kit and put it into, rhythm sections is I guess it would be the hard part for a lot of people, but I feel like I'm musical. It's just everything I do involves music. I walk down the street and I hear a beat while I'm walking.
Yeah.
I'm cleaning up my bathroom, I'm hearing a beat. So I'm naturally beat driven.
Yeah.
So that's why beatboxing comes very natural to me.
Yeah. I heard a legend. I heard a story about you in 2007 at the Black Dog Street Party show. I heard that you used the thunder as like a backbeat for for rapping over and beatboxing over. Is that true? Do you remember that?
I don't remember.
I read about it somewhere.
I probably did.
With Ill Chemistry, with the
we
group?
used to perform together, and
Okay.
it was probably, if that would have happened, it would have been raining.
Yep.
And I probably would have heard it, and I made a beat and probably put the mic up towards it.
I see.
And then it ended up, kind
Yeah.
of being in the beat. I don't remember that happening, but that's dope.
That's awesome. I read that and I was like, that's the coolest thing.
Let me perform outside in the rain.
Definitely.
But oh wow, that's a nice little legend.
Yeah. You pull in all the elements, man. And
Yeah,
you use your
whatever it
surroundings.
is.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. It's I find inspiration in everything around
Totally.
me. So, that would totally make sense that I did that.
Have you ever used the crowd before? Like, have you ever had and like pointed the mic towards the crowd and made that part of your performance?
Well, before COVID, I used to invite people up to help me make beats.
Oh, wow.
But, I'm not doing that no more.
Right.
Not with COVID.
Yeah.
Floating around.
I get it.
But I used to call people up and start up a loop and then have them loop.
Yeah.
With me, and then I would perform over what it is we made together.
Wow.
That was a fun thing to do. And thanks for reminding me. Maybe I should get one of my old mics out that I use for that, and put it on and then take it back off when I'm gonna do my own thing. And then because I did catch COVID once, and I don't want to catch it again. And I don't know what people are doing with their mouths, which is why I have my own mics. But,
totally understandable. I get it.
but yeah, it's really fun. Like I love to involve the crowd. I love performing for crowds.
Yeah.
And if the crowd isn't into it, I feel like my performance is lacking. So the performance has to involve the crowd. If there's people there, let's get it.
Yeah, definitely. Tell me when you were introduced to the looping pedal and how that changed your live performance.
Well, it was actually introduced to me. I think I heard it first. I saw it first used in, it might have been early 2000 or late 2005, around 2006, where a friend of mine, shout out, I hope she's still around. I haven't talked to her in a while. Molly Dean. She was singing on stage, and she had her guitar and her mic plugged into her pedal, and I saw her play the guitar, and then it was playing. It was recorded. I didn't know what was going on.
Oh.
I thought it was recorded, and then she did something else, and then that happened too at the same time, and I'm like, what is she doing? And then she started stacking her harmonies, and I was like, what did I just witness?
Yeah.
So luckily, I knew her already. So when she was done with the show, I ran up to her as fast as I could and was like, yo, what is it you're doing? And she was like, oh, I got this Boss RC20 loop station. If you get one, I'll show you how to work it. It allows you to just kind of stack layers of music and sounds and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's dope. So I kind of was just like, oh, that was cool. And then a short time after that, I was doing a show, and this is the show I met Mike Michael.
Okay. The Orange Goodness.
Shout out to but then it was the Bill Mike Band. Shout out to Mike Michael, who's probably listening right now. That's my brother right there. I was doing a show with him. I met him, and I saw another friend of mine, Deborah G. She was looping also. She had the same pedal, and she was playing guitar and she was doing it, and I was like, oh, she's doing the same thing I saw Molly doing, last year or whatever. And then she totally changed my life when she took her earring off and hit it up against her guitar while she was playing and made a drum beat out of it. And I was just like, yo. So after the show, I ran up to her again. Yo, what did I just see? She was like, oh, it's the Boss RC20 loop station, whatever. You get it and I'll show you how to do it. I'm like, all right, this is 2 times. I've seen this 2 times. There must be a reason. I've seen this happen.
Yeah.
So I was working with a friend of mine at the time, DJ Jimmy 2 Times. Shout out to him. I was telling him, yo, I saw, a couple of my homegirls were using this loop pedal, and I want to get that and start beatboxing with it. And he was like, oh, I got one. I'm like, for real? He was like, yeah, I got it from DJ Abilities. Shout out to DJ Abilities from Idea and Abilities. Mm-hmm. He was like, I got it from Abilities, and I'm actually looking to sell it because I'm trying to pay some rent. And I'm like, okay, how much? He was like, $150. I was like, I'll be there in 20 minutes.
Wow.
Went over his house, paid him $150, got the pedal, drove around with the pedal in my car for like 6 months in the trunk before I actually got the courage to take it out and start using it. So I would open my trunk all the time and see the pedal in there like, oh, it's calling me. So one day I was in the studio with Idea. Shout out to Idea, rest in peace, my brother, my best friend. And he was going to bed, and it was like, 1 o'clock in the morning, and we were recording my debut album, Sense of Sound. And I was like, yo, you mind if I teach myself how to use the loop pedal in your basement while you go to sleep? And he was like, yeah, just turn the computer off when you're done. I'm going to bed. And I went and got the pedal, taught myself how to do it for about 2.5 hours. The next day, did a show with it, and I never looked back from there.
The next day?
Yep, the next day I was like,
wow.
I'm just go in.
I was going to ask you how long did it take you to master it, but it
2.5 hours.
Wow.
I just intensively taught myself how to do it for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And so I could get the timing right. That's the thing, getting the timing right. And I didn't, excuse me, I didn't know why the timing was off the first 100 times I tried it, but then I developed a crutch.
I see.
And I didn't realize that I kind of cracked the code, but I didn't know what it was I was actually cracking the code with.
Right.
And the trick is to put a little bit of a space between the last thing you do and when you push it to record. So it's like, so you put that little space.
I was noticing that. Yeah. Okay.
Right. So the more on it looks like it's going to be when you record it, it's probably off. And the more off it sounds, the better and closer to the actual loop it's going to be.
Yeah.
So I learned to do that, but I didn't know why it did that. I just thought it was a flaw with the pedal until a friend of mine, I don't even know who it was at the time, but he told me, he was like, the pedal starts recording when it's lifted, not when you press it.
Oh.
So then that's what made sense. So it's not it's so you have to get the whole phrase.
I see.
That's how I did it. And
Yeah.
then the next day, I just never looked back. And I pretty much have been doing, I started doing all my own music live on the stage in 2010,
Yeah.
2009. And so I beatboxed and incorporated pre-recorded tracks with my looping all the way up to that point. And then in 2009, I was like, why don't I just do everything? Shout out to my brother Jack Cracker from Madison, who saw me perform live with the loop pedal, and he was like, there's no way you should be doing pre-recorded tracks. You should always beatbox. And I was like, okay. So from there on, I started beatboxing all my sets, and I never looked back from there.
Yeah.
And that's what you get now.
That's so great. And so the distortion pedals and the stuff, the vocal effects, did that come soon after the looping, or?
Yeah, this was the first thing.
Okay.
And I just, for 2 years, I just played with that on the floor, and that people like that. And I was like, oh, this is, but then I was like, oh, I want to step my game up. What can I do to step my game up? I heard about this vocal effects processor, and then a friend of mine bought it for me for Christmas.
Yeah.
And then I started teaching myself how to incorporate the two together.
Yeah.
And then I would go to shows with these two pedals on the floor. It was just those two, and they were on the floor. Then in 2012, I went on tour with Atmosphere, and I would just have the pedals on the floor, and I was killing it. But their guitar player for their live band at the time, shout out to Nate Collis, it's my boy. He saw what I did, and he was like, "Yo, I'm loving what you do, but you need to have a more professional presentation. So I want to help you build a pedal board." And I'm like, "Oh, you mean like the guitars and the bass player have, you know?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna build, you know, the schematics for it. I'm gonna put the scheme together for you, and then you can just go and get pedals and put them on there however you want them." So I came to his house. He had the board, this same board, and this was in 2013.
Okay.
So he had this right here, and there were no pedals on it. And he was like, "You have enough space for some more pedals if you want to go and get some." I'm like, "Keep working on that. I'm going to Guitar Center." And I went to Guitar Center and bought a couple $100 worth of pedals, came back, and started assembling my first pedal board. So in 2013, that's when I started working with more of an ensemble of pedals rather than just the two pieces that were on the floor.
Yeah.
And then that just took me to another level as far as my musicianship. I feel like there I became a producer. There I became a one-man band who could basically make anything I heard in my head and more.
Yeah.
So that's what you get now.
That's so great. That's so great. Wow. So you were talking about tour earlier in that when you were just talking. So when you've traveled and played, where has your kind of reception been the best? Do you have like certain cities that just like love you when you go there? They're just like, yes, love Carnage.
Yeah. I feel like I connect really well with the people on the West Coast.
Okay.
In California, I loved playing California. But I've had good shows everywhere. I've had good shows in Arizona. I've had good shows in Utah.
Yeah.
Utah's a pretty cool place.
And you've gone international too.
Yeah,
correct?
I've been. Oh, I had a really good time in Southeast Asia.
Wow.
That was fun. I played Vietnam, and I played Chiang Mai. Let me see, where else did I play out there? Yeah, three or four. I did like 3 or 4 venues out there.
Yeah.
Shout out to my brother DJ Criminal for hooking that Assignments in Asia tour that we did in that would have been 2017 maybe, or 17 or 18. I can't remember. It's starting to blur. But yes, I have played in those places, and I had a lot of fun out there too. So Thailand, yeah,
Thailand,
we were in Thailand, and yeah, I kind of, for lack of a better way of saying it, I kind of killed it in Thailand. They liked it. I liked, playing for them, and it was real fun to do that out there. So yeah, France. I've been to France about 9 times, and I had a lot of fun there. I had really, really good reception out there too. So there aren't too many places I've gone where I just felt like people hated me. It's been, there's been a nice interaction between me and crowds wherever I've gone, because I try to make the show interactive. I think that helps.
Yeah, totally. Well, so let's take it back to Minnesota now. How do you feel about the Minnesota rap scene, and do you feel like you are a good fit for the Minnesota scene with your kind of music? Because you're very, very unique, I think.
You asked some good questions, bro.
Because also in your 2016 album, the Minnesota, remind me of the title,
the Minnesota Mean Movement.
Correct.
Okay, so yeah,
there's like a love-hate relationship with
you about to
Minnesota.
Open up
You can disclose however much you want to. But.
Okay, at that time, I felt like what I had was not from Minnesota. I felt like it was Minnesota wanted a different sound from what it was I was delivering, and that can be true to an extent. But I think I was kind of being a baby. I was kind of being bitter. Because
about
I had felt like for a period of time I felt like I was doing something that was so unique that I deserved more accolades and more credit for it, which is really a crappy way of looking at the acceptance that people display for your art.
Yeah, totally.
When I look back at it, I'm not as proud of that. I think there were some good songs, and there was some stuff I did that was cool. I like the song Minnesota Mean. I like that song because it's more than just, that. It talks about more than just, oh my God, Minnesota don't like my music. There's more to it than that. But I look back at that era as an error.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, you know what? I need to change the way I view this. I need to change the way I feel about how people do or don't accept my music, because it's not necessarily people's obligation to like my music or buy my music or write about me. Yeah. If it's what you like, mess with it. If it's not, then move on and find something you like more. And I think when I went plant-based, I started thinking of things in a whole different way. So, being plant-based happened about a year after I made the Minnesota Mean album. And by the time I was plant-based, I wasn't feeling the same way as I did the same way I felt on the Minnesota Mean album. And then I started adopting a different approach, and I started thinking about results versus numbers, which is a song on the Ravenous album. And basically, it's not about how many people are at the show. It's about what impact you make on the people who are actually there.
Totally.
So if you change 7 people's lives and that's who's at the show, then you did a good job.
Well, you just changed 20 people's lives today in here.
I appreciate it.
People were wide-eyed the whole time. That was fantastic.
Results versus numbers, and those numbers ain't bad either.
Not bad.
10 people in a show that took time out of their lives to come and see.
Yeah. And however many people were listening on air too. So
yep, yeah, it's like so. Definitely. Yeah, that the Minnesota Mean thing, and now it doesn't matter as much about whether or not my sound is for Minnesota.
Yeah,
it's like my sound is for whoever likes it, and I can take my artistry anywhere I go. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, then you don't. But you might be missing out if you don't pay attention, because there might be something you like there.
Okay.
Great. I will say it that way.
Yeah. No, that's great. You're all about growth. I love it. I love that so much. We're getting to time here. We're past time, so I'm gonna ask you one more question. We do this a lot here. I'm gonna ask you 3 things that you're loving right now. It does not have to be music related. It can be. I know that you pour a lot into your music, so just 3 things.
3 things.
Yep.
I'm loving the relationships I have with everybody I have a relationship with.
That's great.
I'm loving the food that I'm consuming. There's some real good food out there. Shout out to all you plant-based food builders. I'm gonna call y'all food artists. There you go. all you food artists who have taught me how to eat better. I really appreciate it, and it's making life a lot easier. And I love life. That's simple.
Wonderful.
I don't even need to explain that anymore.
Totally. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's really been a pleasure. We hope to have you back real soon.
I would love to come back. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Peace out.
All right. This is DJ Downbeat. I'm going to throw it back to the booth. We're going to give you some more local music until 5. This is Radio K, Real College Radio.